Well, the word hoon is basically similar to our laws here in America of reckless driving. So if someone were to say, oh, you were hooning in Australia, that would mean you were out doing something reckless with a car. But once that term kind of made it over here to America, it became like a term of endearment, like, oh, you're out having fun with a car, great. Whereas if you were reckless driving here, it'd be like, oh, you're going to get a ticket. A couple, journalists here in America started calling me King of the Hoons because I was a race car driver that was out having fun with my cars also. And around that time is when I started making the Gymkhana videos. So that was really kind of the epitome of technical driving, but having fun with the car because it was a race car that I wasn't racing, which is just something unique and a bit different in the world of motorsports. So that word hoon then became something that we started using more and more. And then we started to develop the brand of Hoonigan, the idea of it, and I came up with the term Hoonigan, and it just kind of stuck for us and ended up being great for the brand, and now we've continued to grow and grow. I think we're in our 7th or 8th year with the brand. Well, it's genuinely fun. It's a fun way to drive a car.
It's so much fun.
It really is. Anything from a business adventure to even a social media post, it's how can we be creative, do things in a different way, but also show a love for life and a love for having fun.
Say motocross, you must have started when you were, 4, 5, or 6 years old?
Started what? I started skateboarding at that age.
The rally car racing.
No, unfortunately, I started rally car racing when I was 37. Very, very old in the world of motorsports.
You have people who've done it from a very, very young age. I mean, there's certainly a number of countries that seem to produce a lot of champions. How at 36, 37 did you think about tackling this seriously?
Well, in the beginning, it was just a hobby. The first year I went out and funded my own racing. I was just, as amateur as an amateur gets, first year out, just learning the ropes. But in the beginning, it was just like, okay, let me figure this out. Let me throw everything into it if I'm really into this. And I really did try and learn as much as I possibly could. My first rally car driving lesson was at Team O'Neill in New Hampshire. It all kind of roots back to Travis Pastrana. So at the time I was the chief brand officer of DC Shoes, and Travis Pastrana was one of our moto athletes. And Travis in 2004 did a couple of rallies. And that just woke me up to the fact that rally even existed in the States and that I could potentially go do it. And so Travis's agent, Steve Astafin, was a good friend of mine, and I called Steve and I said, hey, I want to go do that, what Travis is doing. How do I do that? So Steve connected me with the team. The team said, yeah, come out. We'll take you to a great rally school, which ended up being Team O'Neill. Put me through a 4-day course, and I was hooked. Like, I couldn't have enjoyed myself more, and I felt like I had a little bit of natural talent for it. I could throw the thing around exactly how I wanted, and I was pretty quick, but no clue as to where that would go. I just was like, hey, I really like this. This is fun. I need to do this more. And with DC, we sponsored guys like Ricky Carmichael and Jeff Emig, Ryan Hughes, Jeremy McGrath, like some of the best guys in the world. So I got to go ride with them. So I wanted to be in shape to go do that stuff, and being around guys like that, and Danny Way and Travis Rice and, Andy Irons, these guys that, were the top of the field in all their areas. Like, I got to see how champions trained. I see how they ate. I saw, what it took to be a champion. So I knew how to train and how to mentally get myself there and do those things. So I was able to take all that and apply it to myself to develop my own talent to go do something that I love to do. And so 2005 was the first year I raced, and then was able to get 4th overall in the national championship and actually beat Travis that year. So from there I was like, holy shit, this is fun, and I've got some natural talent for it, and I'm just going to put as much effort as I can into doing it and try and see where it goes. I had no idea where it would go, but it ended up going a lot further than I ever expected, and it's been a completely wild ride. But I really give a lot of credit back to not only the experiences that I had with DC of trying to be successful and figuring out what it takes to be successful, but also understanding the mental and physical sides of, studying and watching these friends of mine that were champions and what it took for them to do what they needed to do. So I grew up in Long Beach, California, skateboarding, ride BMX bikes as a kid, and then moved down to North San Diego. My parents decided they wanted to own an avocado grove, so it moved me down to the countryside of North San Diego, and continued skateboarding, but then started riding dirt bikes. So I raced amateur dirt bikes when I was, in my teenage years, but didn't actually start racing cars till I was 37. Although I'd been a fan of rallies since I was very young, I was never a fan of like American motorsports for some reason. Like my brother had drag raced and like all that. I knew all that stuff existed, but as a kid, I was most interested in Formula One, but really rally, like cars that slid and jumped and raced in the snow and through Africa, and it's just something I related to much more than a car that just went straight or went in a circle. And I, no disrespect to those sports, it just wasn't interesting to me. And I think that's also why I loved, dirt bikes so much as a teenager, was the creativity of it, of jumping, of sliding, of, racing around a track that had all these obstacles. And really rally racing was that, but with a car. And so I just genuinely loved it from since I was quite young, but I never had an opportunity to do anything with it or even knew it existed in the States till I was around 36, 37. Well, the first time I got in a race car, I absolutely loved it, and it was everything I dreamed about as a kid, driving for the first time. It was incredible, and I was like, oh, okay, when do I get back in the car next? Like, I was hooked. This is a big mechanical extension of yourself that's all wrapped around you, that 650 horsepower, 0 to 60 in less than 2 seconds. I mean, it's incredible what this car can do. And it's something that I've loved since the first time I got into a race car, and it still has the same sort of draw on me today as it did years ago. What you do see with a lot of those guys, that you see with any top athlete, is the drive and determination. There's guys out there that aren't the most talented, but they're willing to outwork everyone, and that's kind of where I was. I was an older guy, 37, 38, I'm competing against 20-year-olds, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to be smarter, I'm going to train smarter, I'm going to prepare smarter, I'm going to do everything, I'm going to find every trick in the book that I can to maximize the opportunity. And I think that's really a lot of what it takes in the end with a lot of athletes. There is a lot of outliers out there, the Ricky Carmichaels of the world, that he's the greatest of all time for certain reasons that no one else can match, But other than that, there's a lot of people out there that it's a matter of mastering the game, always being a student of the game and finding every little moment where you can find some sort of advantage. And that means you have to live it. You have to live it day in, day out. You cannot be a champion of a sport generally without, that study, without the living, breathing, existing in that form of sport day in, day out. And so I think that's the main thing that I've seen as a constant, is that dedication to the craft. I've been driven since I was a kid for not necessarily success, I would say for accomplishment. When I set out to do something, I really want to succeed at it. For some reason, I just want to see whatever idea I have through and do it the best that I possibly can.